Uh, Hello, this is helpful and welcome to our webinar. This is Rajiv Shah from RBSA Advisors. I'm the Managing Director and CEO of the firm's Financial and Valuation Practice. As with all things wonderful, there are times when there are some technical glitches. We have a small technical glitch here, which we are trying to sort out. We have Mr. Dinesh Kanabar very much visible and audible, but we are trying to sort out the things with Bharam. So while he's on the audio link, we are trying to get him on the video, and there is a team working to resolve it. But meanwhile, we have a very fascinating conversation lined up ahead of us. The world of professional services in India has not been discussed much, and there is a lot of conversation which is possible there. It is often overlooked and discussed behind closed doors. But the biggest question which many of the professional firms, and I mean professional firms, these are accounting, audit firms, tax advisory firms, law firms, valuation firms, or any other kind of financial advisory firms where people are the key resource. The key point is, what is the secret of building a professional firm? Why do majority of the Indian professional services firms struggle to scale up? Why do they struggle to differentiate? Why often it takes time, a lot of time for them to make an impact? And why is that the Indian professional services firms are not growing as fast as the other MNC firms are able to do? And who better than Mr. Dinesh Kanabar and Mr. Bharam Vakil to answer these questions? Now, these gentlemen do not need any introduction actually, but I'll give a very brief one so as to get things moving. Mr. Kanabar is one of the very illustrious tax advisors in the country. He is the founder and CEO of Dhruva Advisors. Dhruva has been, in a very, very short span of time, I think 5 years or thereabouts, has been ranked Indian Tax Firm of the Year consistently for the last 3 years. Indian Tax and Dispute Firm for the year last 2 years. He was the deputy CEO of KPMG in India. He was the chairman of the tax practice, and I think he was head of the tax and regulatory practice for PricewaterhouseCoopers. I can fill in a few minutes, but I think he needs no introduction. Apart from that, we have Mr. Bharam Vakil, who was the founder of one of the finest law firm of India, AZB and Partners. In a very, very short span of, I think, 18 or 19 years, AZB has come in the very, very league in terms of Indian firms. The firm was started small by himself, Zia Modi and Ajay Bhatt. But in a very, very short span of time, the firm has done so well for itself. And now we have Bharam very much live with us. Thank you, Bharam, and pardon for the whole glitch. Bharam is one of the finest lawyers you can get, true Parsi gentleman. He has been working with so many government committees in framing laws, and obviously leads AZB as a firm. The less I say about them is better, because most of the audience already know them. And I think let me jump onto the main topic right away, and I'll address the questions to both of you, and I'll maybe let both of you answer them one by one. As I said, professional firms are so different. Dinesh bhai, if you want to start with that, and maybe Bharam. And generally, they're so different than other industries that the general management concepts that apply to managing an industry or a manufacturing firm or any kind of company are very, very different from managing a professional firm. So why do the general concepts fall short when applying to a professional firm which is people dependent?
Rajiv, first of all, thank you for the generous introduction. I'll accept it with grace, and thank you for having me on this webinar. The way I look at what point you are making, Rajiv, is that there is really no difference when it comes to either managing an organization which is professional services or any other organization. The fundamental principles remain the same. You rightly put it, Rajiv, to say that when you're looking at a professional services organization, you're dealing with nothing but people, 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 and people have different aspirations, people have different goals, people have different needs, people have different desires. Um, and you need to manage the people, you need to manage equally the growth of the organization, the culture of the organization, the way you manage the funding of the organization. So there are lots of things which are required to be done out there. And in some sense, it is no different than anything else. What does distinguish, however, a professional services organization? And as you began, you and you were giving the introduction, you spoke about scale. I think in a professional services organization, scale cannot be the measurement. Scale has to be the end product. Like, for example, when you were introducing Behram and you spoke about AZB, you rightly mentioned that it is regarded as a premier firm. That's what organizations have to aim to aspire to be. And then growth comes as a logical corollary. So, to my mind, and again, I would break up there are n number of professional services organizations. As you rightly said, there are accounting organizations, there are legal organizations, there are strategy consulting organizations, whether it is McKinsey, Bain, BCG, and equally number of Indian firms. They all run on the principle as to how do you get the best out of the people, how do you put systems and processes in place which allows the people to perform to their maximum and deliver value to the client. So to that extent, I would say that they are all the same, uh, except that the emphasis on people is far more. You don't have machines running for you, but even where you have machines, you have people running the machines.
Correct, sir. But any take from your side, Bharam, on this? How are they different? You built this firm from scratch. So how do you and you were a partner in the one of the oldest law firms prior to that. I mean, Little and Company is a history. So how do you see yourself? How they are different?
Yeah, so first of all, thank you so much for the opportunity and apologies for all the technical mess ups on my part. So I hope now the sound and picture is fine.
Absolutely.
So you are
So
looking as handsome as ever.
no, no, please, please. So I think that just as Dinesh has said, that in our case it's all about people and it's all about quality. So this is not at all, at least I know from a law firm perspective, it is certainly not about capital. These things are not capital intensive at all. All your assets walk out of the door every night. So it's all about the right people, right in terms of integrity, right in terms of course, competence, and some amount of, at least at AZB, we have believed some amount of fire in the belly. So that's it. And like everything in life, we were extremely lucky because it was also the timing was very fortuitous that we AZB was started in 2004, and 2004 up to Lehman, those were 5 glorious years. So that way it was really good.
But sir, if people say that there is no capital required, as you said, not much capital is required. Only thing we need systems, process, people, and quality. Then my very fundamental question is that why Indian homegrown firms have not been able to scale? What is the reason? Is it that their leaders and their senior management has not been able to make their mark? And I'm conscious, and maybe this is more applicable to accounting and world because legal world is still insulated from that competition. So maybe I'll let Dinesh bhai respond, and then you respond on the this point.
That's
Yeah.
great. So I'll just my chai.
So Rajiv, I think first and foremost, if you look at the Indian accounting profession, uh, you have the big four operating here in India under different names. But all the partners in the Big Four, for example, are local Indian partners. They are Indian partnership. What comes from the global network is systems, processes, technology, client connects, and whatever else. Uh, and to your question as to why have Indian firms not been able to size up to the global firm, I think the issue really is in the evolution. So if you look at any of the big four, they have global clients. So say a G has KPMG as an auditor for the last more than 100 years. Now, wherever GE went and set up operations from USA, KPMG as an auditor, so to say, followed suit. And then there were other companies, lots of clients really. So you had a captive client base, which allowed you to go global, and as a result of which you are able to spread your wings far. I'm now just beginning with the audit profession itself, and then of course how this firms ventured into tax business, into advisory business, etc. But the fundamental base which happened was that there were clients who had global aspirations, and you as an audit organization matched up, walked step to step with them, and you also became global. By the time this came to India, really the situation was that Indian firms were not global in nature. That has been a comparatively recent phenomenon. So you had an Infosys, you have a Wipro, you have a TCS. Now those organizations were Indian, and when they went global, they really were raising funds globally. They needed stamp of a global organization, which gave confidence to the investors that nothing was wrong with the accounts. And therefore, there wasn't an opportunity or maybe even a desire of the Indian firms to really move with the clients and be there globally. So I think we have come to a stage today, Rajay, if I may dare say, that if you wanted to recreate the Big Four world today by an Indian MNC, and we heard our Prime Minister in his talk to the Institute come back and say that there is global Big Four, and I hope that the next Big Four comes from India. That can happen only and only if two things converge. First is there are Indian organizations which are willing to use Indian audit firms, uh, 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 and the Indian firms are also able to take up that challenge, demonstrate that quality, and are able to scale up in size. If that happens, then wherever the Indian firms grow, the auditors will grow. If that does, so look at China. Today, China is the second largest economy. Chinese companies are up in scale compared to any other organization in the world. And yet you don't have any Chinese as a large one of the big four or whatever firm. Primarily because, again, the Chinese firms, when they are raising money on New York Stock Exchange or wherever else, seek to get a stamp of one of the big four to give credibility to their accounts. So I don't think that this is where the world is moving, where we should look to say, will the accounting firms grow? The other thing, Rajiv, if I could add to that, is that the big four grew on the strength of their audit practice. What does that mean? That essentially meant that they gave confidence to the people that if we sign the accounts, you can rely on those accounts. That was the credibility. Then they diversified into different businesses. So it was tax. And you went and told your clients that if you can rely on my signature for audit, you can rely on my signature even on a tax advice. And tomorrow I could do a forensic for you. But my brand is reflected in my forensic work or my any other work, such that you can believe that if something comes from us and is signed off by us, it is creditable. So they built businesses. And you look at what is happening today. We have now reached a situation where most of the big four, uh, the tax and the advisory business is more dominant than the audit business. The audit business varies between 25 to 45% for each one of the big four. So that's how they have grown. Those were the opportunities. And I don't think those opportunities are going to replicate for Indian organizations to grow in that scale and size. What Indian organizations can attempt to do is to grow as very sound technical boutiques which are able to provide services of a very, very high quality, and then allow the size to emerge as a result rather than chase size as a dominant objective.
Oh, sir, I understand that. So for big four, the tip of the spear was the audit practice. That tip allowed them to penetrate into client base, and eventually they were able to expand their range of services. Unfortunately, and I'll come to Bahram, unfortunately, the Indian firms have not been able to show that kind of specialization, or is that and they try to do everything, or is that the problem, sir?
And I will just respond to that. I don't think that Indian firms lacked any specialization. Uh, there was Ferguson and Company, which for many years was regarded as an icon in the field of audit practice. It then merged and became what is now Deloitte. There was CC Chokshi and Company, which again was regarded as a bastion, a name to go by. Again, became part of one of the big four. So there have been Indian organizations. However, over a period of time, they have all become part of the big four. Then there have been other firms, and if I can go by name, and very high quality firm. And for example, whether it is KS Iyer and Company, whether it is Chitle and Company, all very high quality organizations. I think it's a separate subject in itself, and maybe not a part of what we are discussing today, as to why when the audit rotation happened, some of them lost out and whatever else happened. But Indian firms have also been of exceptionally high quality. However, they have not been able to match up to the might of the big four.
No. So I'll come to a question. Maybe I'll let Bahram respond. Bahram, I mean, legal firm or law firm as a legal profession has been, to some extent, as you would appreciate, has been insulated. But there is sufficient internal competition, and all the law firms have grown to a significant scale. So and my question to you, sir, is a sort of a protectionism allows the firm to grow to a very large size, which has happened in legal profession? And what's your take on the first question?
I think that I'll be very frank among friends that the legal profession is very different. I don't think any of us, I certainly can speak for ourselves, and I have had discussions with a lot of friends like Cyril, Shardul, etc. And I don't think any of us even have an aspiration of going international in the true sense, what you are talking about. Yes, there are a very few, Nishit being one example, that he was very far-sighted and he went to Silicon Valley decades ago and has also gone to Singapore. But that is not really to become an international firm. That is more, as Dinesh said, to service his clients and see that they are well looked after. And at that time, there was, we all know that Silicon Valley has a huge uh, number of extremely successful Indians. So it was ideal to do that. And similarly, the idea was Singapore would create the same magnet. They have remained very small. I mean, 1 or 2% outposts, really. So it's never the intention, even whenever we spoke about it. And I'll tell you why it's not the intention. And I can speak best for AZB. We still have, there are many cities in India we can go to. We have not even reached, I don't know, 50% or 25% of the capacity in India. First, let us focus and do our best in our own country. Where is the question of bandwidth to go global? So I think still for lawyers, we are very blessed. The demand supply situation in India, given our size of our GDP now, given our levels of sophistication in most of the areas that AZB practices, it is still very much in our favor. There are only that many lawyers and there is that much work. So the aspiration today is not there. And I'll make another point. I mean, this is, of course, my personal belief that the two most successful law firms in the world are Wachtell in New York. Wachtell has one office in the world, that is New York. It has about 250 lawyers. You know that there are law firms that have 8, 9, 10,000 lawyers, but Wachtell will be 5 times as profitable. And the second most profitable firm in the world is Slaughter and May. Slaughter and May has one office, London. It has these top firms, what they call it. They have a kind of best friendship, but and Slaughter is slightly bigger than Wachtel. I don't know, maybe 300-400. But again, compared to what the Magic Circle, Clifford Chance, Linklaters, it is tiny. So actually, the jury is out that these massive international firms, mainly London, there are a few American, but America is also, same story. The domestic market is so large and lucrative that most people focus on that. So the theory is that there's huge costs in these international firms. And is that really the best model, or is it better to be really focused on quality? We always come back to quality. At AZB, we have never been about size. I mean, are we the largest firm? Certainly not. So we have always focused on quality, and to answer your question, we have focused on our home country.
So, but again, if I say the journey again, and I understand that there are differences between how accounting, audit, taxation profession has happened and how legal profession has happened. I concede that there are significant differences. But again, coming to Dinesh Bhai, sir, you said that many of these very finest firms, the A. Fergusons, the C.C. Choksi's, I mean, at one point of time, they were the at their time they were there was something to be in awe of. But now they are part of and their identity has been subsumed within the big four. Now, why is that? I'm just trying to. There are two parts to that question, sir. Why is that the then leaders could not had to merge with the big four? And that the second question is that today all the young people who may be listening to this webinar, some of them are leaders of professional firms. What they should they do? Which is a more fundamental question, so as to they can either scale up in terms of quality or they can differentiate themselves. They are struggling in many sense, fighting the might of the global firms.
It's a very interesting question, Rajiv. I would agree with you. Um, Going back to what has happened is that either an organization has iconic leaders and the strength and the name of the leader carries the organization, in which case, when that leader is no longer around, a question or happens as to what happens to the organization. So that's one aspect. Second is, have we put together systems, processes? Have we ensured that whoever is the leader of the organization is a giant among giants and not a giant among pygmies? So if you build organizations where you allow people to grow, Behram used a very interesting term in the context of why law firms have not gone overseas, and he used the word bandwidth. So he put two aspects there, both of which are absolutely right. One is that there is so much opportunity in India. Why should I not first exploit that, then go overseas? Second, even if I want to go overseas, is there a bandwidth? Now, what is bandwidth? Bandwidth is the managerial capability. It is not really money which is the issue. It is really two things happen. One is the mindset and an aspiration to go global. That needs to be there, and not everybody has it. People may simply, as Behram rightly says, law firms have come back to say, we are doing so well in India. Why do we want to chase growth? So, are you chasing growth? What are you trying to do out there? And as you and I had a conversation earlier, Raju, and I mentioned to you that any organization which is chasing growth for the heck of it is not going to go anywhere. You got to chase quality, you got to chase culture, and then allow the size to be a consequence of it rather than chasing size. However, to be relevant, you also need to have size. So, and again, Behram gave two extremely great examples of law firms, Wachtell Lipton, which is an icon itself, written so much at Harvard Business Review, books written on it, whatever else. Slaughter and May, again, an extremely nice example. Equally, there are very large law firms, iconic in their own way. Kirkland Ellis, for example, which is today a $5 billion organization. There is no one right answer. There's a question of what is the path that you are choosing. And if you look at even a Slaughter and May, There is no Slaughter today, there is no May today. They may have created the firm, passed on, but they have grown in size. There have been mergers. They have kept their culture very, very sacrosanct and then grown around. And the question is, are Indians looking at it at all or not? And I must say that Indians aren't necessarily looking at it. For an Indian firm to be relevant in terms of size, the key question, Rajiv, which is going to come up is there a leadership bandwidth? I think I'm glad Behram used that word, because that really manifests that are there people who want to come back and say, we can do that in a very, very small way. And I don't think it is even worth too much talking about, but in a very small way. For example, at Dhruva, we said, yes, you will grow in India. We set up 6 offices in India. And we said, but also maybe there are opportunities overseas. And we set up an office in Dubai where we started practicing VAT. And we came back to say that here is a country, here is a group of Emirates where people have not heard about accounts, audit, forgetting tax. How will they comply with tax regulations? They are not exposed to it at all. And we set up a shop. And I must say that, Rajiv, it's been a very, very satisfying experience. Probably, and again, this is my estimation and I could be utterly wrong, but outside the big four, we would be the largest tax practice in the UAE, and maybe larger than at least one of the big four. But again, we did not chase size, we chased quality, and that's where we are. Similarly, we are there in Singapore, and in Singapore, we practice Singapore laws. Now, those are the opportunities which came our way. And as Behram rightly says, there is no one right answer as to whether you should do more office in India or look only at India as a market.
And sir, I tend to maybe agree with you and maybe supplement it with our example also. Sir, we don't do a lot of things. We are focused on financial advisory and valuation, and that's what we built. That's the tip of the spear for us. That's how we were able to scale. And like you, amongst the very few firms who are in Dubai or in Singapore and trying to grow. But again, sir, the home market still remains the strongest market, and Dubai and Singapore are outposts of what we do. But sir, Dubai would allow us to have a complete, uh, shall I say, coverage of the whole Middle East and North African market. So that's a something which we can. But again, sir, you made a very critical point, and this is a question to both of you. So then you said that Indian firms are too dependent on their leaders. Now, as long as the leader is there, it is very good. They don't have systems and processes. If the leader is good and he is a benevolent leader, the firm would survive and would become an institution. Often the leader would feel, "Okay, me and my son or me and my daughter," and then that's where the others don't find a opportunity to grow. So are the Indian, and they were finest people, some of the brightest people, but because they restricted the leadership to me and my son or me and my daughter and didn't professionalize it, so the people who were genuinely talented, they didn't find the space to grow. And I mean, this is a question which maybe both of you can
Behram, why
answer.
don't you go?
I think, in fact, Dinesh has alluded to this, and it's a very critical point, certainly in the legal profession, that we should be building more institutions. Again, there's no right and wrong. So it's a pure matter of what your objective is. If there is, as you said, someone who wants to have a small firm, live peacefully, father, son, family, by all means, he'll still do very, very well. I know a lot of firms, 10, 15 lawyers doing fantastic, having a good life, balanced life, very happy. So there are no judgments here. But if you're building a large firm, a major firm, pan-India firm, then certainly I would say that it is high time that we need to move away from icons to building institutions. You can't look, and that is all about your planning, your foresight. Are you looking 3, 5, 7 years, or are you looking 10, 20, 30 years down the road? I'm sure if you talk to the top 10 law firms in India, nobody's going to say, oh, I would like the firm to collapse after us. And in fact, there are so many firms that are over 100 years old. As you mentioned, the firm I was privileged to start my career is over 150 years old. So you have to have that mindset. And it is extremely, I'm sorry, we keep both Dinesh and me come back to it, but in our profession, that is really at the essence, quality. So what makes AZB super proud is, I think I can say without, with all modesty, that one of our big strengths is if you ask the clients, yes, they'll be happy with the seniors, no question. They'll be happy with the partners, but who is doing the real hard work? Who's really sweating? We all know it is the associates. So if you ask them, how do you find the quality of AZB's associates, of the entire team? I think more often than not, they will say that it is a quality firm. So you are as strong as your junior most associate. I'd like to put it that way. So I think that's crucial. Yeah, that's an institution. So you need to. I mean, just to reiterate, as Dinesh said, at McKinsey, okay, many of us may know the number one or two. Beyond that, do I know names? I don't know the names. But you're going because it's McKinsey, right? Or BCG, or so it has to, the institution must have uh, that brand.
So is
You
the
know,
founder brand sometimes overpowers the institution's brand, sir? I mean, Dinesh.
so let me come in. So first of all, I am surprised that Behram did not take an umbrage to say that firms have grown, but they don't have processes. They do. Just because there is an iconic leader does not mean the all the three AZBs are iconic people in themselves. But let me tell
I
you,
agree.
I have worked with that organization so closely that they have systems and processes par excellence, and people will say that the law firms in India render services of a quality which is good globally. I don't see that as an issue. I think the couple of points which come in. Behram mentioned about, for example, the creation of an institution, and I remember, and this goes back to maybe 1995, and I used to then be a partner with Ratan S. Mama and Company, and we did a lot of work with Uday Kota. And at one of our partners meeting, we had invited Uday to come, and Uday was talking about creating a. So remember, we are talking about 95, many years back, and Uday was talking to us, and he said that look. Uh, at that time, Arthur Andersen was a very dominant firm in India, and he said that look, when I call up Arthur Andersen, I might not even know the partner. I might say I want to speak to somebody in audit or whatever, advisory, whatever. I am assured of a particular minimum quality. That's what the name Arthur Andersen represents. And that goes for all the big four. That when you call up the organization, there is a particular quality. Sure, if you have a relationship, you might get that extra, but those. And I think the challenge for the Indian organizations, even if they have iconic leaders or they don't have iconic leaders, as Behram put it, when I make a call to anybody in the organization, am I assured of a minimum quality? I don't need to go to the top person to get that answer. Anybody in that organization is going to give me something which is of a great quality. So long as we are, so when we speak about systems and processes, and I must say that probably here is one thing which Indian organizations have not been able to capitalize on. So, having been a part of the Big Four are wonderful organizations. They are very sound organizations, but they do have a bureaucracy of their own. And this bureaucracy, I don't mean necessarily in a negative sense. So a client acceptance in a Big Four might take 3-4 days because you have to do a global thing and whatever else. So by the time your systems, processes, everything happens, there is maybe sometimes a lack of speed or whatever. It's unrightly so, because these organizations have a brand of their own which they need to protect because it's a global reputation. One flaw somewhere can impact the global brand. Our Indian organizations, our boutique organizations like Dhruva, like whoever else, conscious that they have a unique value proposition, that they are independent. So we at Dhruva ask ourselves, we don't have audit, therefore we don't create conflict. We are never compromised. Are you able to capitalize on it and yet at that same time have systems and processes when it comes to delivery, which ensures the client that the quality is world class without the attendant bureaucracy which might come with many of the larger organizations?
Sir, I understand and agree with you. Well, taking the conversation further, sir, when I speak to many of the leaders of professional firms in India, they often say that there is a sort of asymmetry in the competition. While they, they are struggling and they are saying, how do we break out of this asymmetric power? While there are global firms with the global brands and financial resources, systems, processes, which are globally set, and uh, they are 100-member firm, 50-member firm, 200 people firm. They say that while we have the best clients, but we know that at some stage we might end up losing them. So they fear that sort of asymmetry in competition, and therefore
Rajiv,
lose the best client.
I'm sorry to stop you in between and pardon my intrusion. I think it's a
So,
wrong question. It's
okay,
absolutely a wrong question.
okay,
At Dhruva, we are 340 people, okay, of whom roughly 300 are in India, 40 are outside. Now, a 300-person organization, if I compare with a big four, which is something like 12 to 15,000, we are not even a speck on them. Is that really relevant? Why is that asymmetry? Why does it need addressing? Question is, we believe that the day we start looking upon ourselves as competition to the big four, we will never succeed. Are we carving out a niche in the market where we come and say that when it comes to certain things, you will have to come and talk to us because we are the best in class?
see,
Aside
sir, I
beyond,
agree
if,
with you.
yeah,
So I agree with you. So you have created that niche, that you have differentiated yourself in that niche. And I can read that, I can see that for us also. So we have created niche in valuation where we can bid for a reasonably tough time, and we've grown to that level and size. That uh, same space we are occupying in other segment, which is valuation, sir. My point is, sir, you are an exception. Dhruva and AZB are exception of the law. The question which is there is, what should a general firm, because they are facing a big challenge which is of asymmetric competition, and they are in this sort of a vicious circle. If they lose the best client, they also lose the best people. Eventually, so they, while they are not able to come up, so instead of going in a virtuous circle, they are sort of falling in a vicious circle. And so that applies to accounting firms also, and some of the homegrown law firms also. And maybe both of you can answer that question or maybe respond to that.
So I think, I'll take the law firm part. And
Correct, sir.
Dinesh, thank you so much for your very kind remarks on the processes and systems. Really appreciate it. Uh, but I would like to say that actually I'm a big believer in competition. Probably, half of my partners will frown on me for saying it, but that's the way I am, and that's the way I've been all along. In the when I started my career, of course, I'm aging myself terribly, but in 1982, I can say hand on heart between Crawford Bailey, Little and Company, and Mullah, 70% of the daily board of the Bombay High Court was covered by these three firms. Today, I don't think there is any such kind of dominance. The there are so many small, top quality new firms spin out from all the major firms in India, and that trend is only growing. Because as Dinesh says, you have to then just find your niche, find your sweet spot. They've all had terrific training. They're all super bright. So very rarely have let me put it that I've seen an alumni of AZB go and God forbid not do well. 99% they have done terrific. And of course, we should be justifiably proud of that. So I think that you have to be realistic. You have to draw up your plans, draw up your goals, and we keep harping back to the thing that you have to focus on quality. So, because at least in law, I mean, it would be interesting to hear what Dinesh says on the accounting side, but in law, still demand supply is very much skewed. in our favor. So yes, in terms of litigation, real estate, all those big numbers of lawyers will come. But in project finance, even today, how many lawyers in India are true project finance experts? And we all keep crying that infrastructure, we need infrastructure desperately. Anywhere we go to in the world, we feel bad that our infrastructure doesn't match. If we say we need international law firms for infrastructure, everyone, including my partners and all my friends in other firms, will say, Bhairam, you always have this theory, we are good enough. But we, again, same thing, we don't have the bandwidth. There may be a bunch of superb lawyers, but for the size of India's infrastructure, no way, no way. So there's still a lot of potential. I would tell young lawyers, any young lawyers listening in, fantastic potential.
But again, the challenge is many of these law firms, as I said, they are great firms, small firms. But the problem is that the big marquee business is looking at certain size and scale. The biggest deals will not come to them generally because the top 500 companies are looking, they prefer to deal with an institution. You are an institution, Dhruva is an institution, but a 20-member, 10-member firm is probably may not be called an institution. So while they are individually genius, but I can say my one of my teachers used to say that individually genius but collectively hopeless. So they are not. so they,
So two points there, and maybe I'll give you some names and examples, Rajiv. So first, I
yes.
agree with your point that if you're trying to create an Indian audit firm, for example, audit has been virtually commoditized, and unless you are able to make a distinctive mark, you are not going to be able to compete with the giant. But you look at investment banking. We all understand investment banking. And surely the biggest deals in the world will go to, for example, a Goldman Sachs or a JP Morgan or a Morgan Stanley or whatever else. And yet, if you go and ask somebody that which is the firm which is probably the best known in the pharma space, and people will come and speak about Jeffrey. You call about an homegrown firm, which is the firm which is so well known in IT enabled services. People come back and say Aventus does a great job at it. So if I think if you're going to say that you compare size for size, and can we create 5 AZBs or 5 CAMs, SAMs, etc.? That's not going to. I have seen, for example, Khaitan and company grow, so to say, before my eyes. It was, of course, always a very premier fund. But I have seen Hagreev come to Bombay. They had no presence in Bombay. And he started from day zero, going out, meeting people, building a team. And sure enough, in the last 20 years, he has built something which can compete with everybody. It takes time, and it takes time and effort. But if you go and say that I want to, I think the question with which I don't agree, Rajiv, is that if you say that but for size I will get stifled, is not right. What
So
I'm
you're
saying is
saying
that
that.
what I'm
So
saying
are you saying
essentially
that
is,
the specialization is the way to go rather than the size? What I hear from you, sir, is that maybe a niche area, the
and then
best
you
firm
expand.
in that niche area.
So you look at Cyril. Cyril built his strength on financial services. He got something, worked very hard, made a name, and then went on growing and then did everything else. You pick up a couple of areas of specialization, get known for it, then go on building something, and the firm grows. If you say that why from day one am I not a firm which is of that size? And look at, I mean, I've seen Zia grow before my eyes. I was mentioning to you the other day that I happen to have that fate in terms of introducing Zia to her first partner. Got the two of them together. So I have seen how Zia has grown the organization. I have seen how Cyril has grown the organization. How Cyril and Shardul came together to build up Amarchand Mangaldas. So it is not that these have grown over some 100 years. Both of these organizations have grown similarly. Hagreev has grown, JSA has grown over a period of time. Uh, uh, so each one, there are many examples of people who have grown. You rightly mentioned that fortunately legal firms had a degree of protectionism available. accounting profession has not had protectionism available. But again, I know of a firm, for example, KNAV, and again I can take a name, who have created a niche on providing US accounting gap audit services to Indian companies. You carve out that niche, you grow, and then you grow on expanding. That's the way to go. That's the way I look at it.
So can I ask a provocative question? I mean, is that protectionism has enabled law firms to grow a large and Indian accounting firms not to be able to scale that size? I mean, I don't know the right answer, but maybe both of you can individually comment on that.
So I can only tell you that again, as I said, I personally, let me make it very clear. This is my personal view. I believe in competition.
Yes.
I worked with a New York firm, as did Zia, and I know that all three of us didn't look for the protectionism. In fact, we have very good friends and very good relationships with the top firms globally. Uh, I and what we have seen in many other jurisdictions is that if you look at the top firm in Italy, top firm in Spain, top firm in Germany, of course, all these are open. Anyone can go and set up. They are still Germany's number one firm is Engler Muller. Italy's number firm is Chiomenti. So the top two, three firms in each country, in spite of Linklaters and everyone going there, is those firms. So if you're asking me that would our top 4, 5 firms size been different, I really doubt it. I mean, things may have been changed. Maybe costs may have gone up, people's salaries may have gone up, or the competition, of course, would have uh, for fees would have been stronger. But would Amar, both Sam, Cam, all of us be roughly good size? I think so, because it's still, as I say, we are at a very early stage. I think we've got a long way to go. So that's my take. But this is my very personal take.
And again, it is very fashionable. You ask this question about Big Four protectionism. And I look at several Indian organizations. Look at the organization which Lakshmi Kumar and Sridharan has created. Outstanding. They picked up the niche indirect taxes, indirect tax litigation. From there they went to foreign trade. Now they have gone to trademarks, patents, etc. And the firm is known and respected for what it does, and it competes day in day out with the Big Four. In fact, it doesn't, I think, even regard Big Four as a competition. When it comes to a litigation on indirect taxes, it's a prima donna firm. Similarly, so each firm, Dhruva has its own niche, but there are several. All I'm saying is, probably if we try and say that here is a Big Four, 15,000 people, Lakshmi Kumar and Sridharan, 600, 700 lawyers, no size. But that's not what it is, the way to look at it. I don't think, yes, you have to be of a meaningful size so that you make an impact. Otherwise, if you're just a 2, 4, 5 people firm, you may not be able to make that impact in the marketplace. You grow to a reasonable size, but Indians have scaled up. Again, sorry, just taking a minute on Lakshmi Kumar and Sridharan, and I was talking to Mr. Lakshmi Kumar. Just imagine a person working in the revenue who has not even worked in the private sector start an organization and build such a high quality organization. It's something to be extremely proud of. So all that I'm going to tell you is that people may not have grown in that size, but the fact that there is Big Four, the fact that there is competition has not deterred them from making a niche in the marketplace, being known in the marketplace as a point of first recall for the type of services. And then it's your aspirations on how much you want to spread your wings, whether it is in terms of in the country, outside the country, the type of services. So Lakshmi Kumar and Sridharan grew on indirect taxes. Now they venture to direct taxes and trade and whatever, and tomorrow they could venture into something else because they represent a quality which the people understand.
No, I agree with you, sir. I completely, sir. There are multiple examples of firms which have focused on one segment and made a mark there. And after they've grown significantly in that scale, they have gradually uh, branched out into the other things. But taking the conversation further, so this is a very, again, so today with the advent of technology, knowledge is so freely available. It has become so democratized. People are so easily from here to there, there to here. There is a and it is so easy to get access to that knowledge. So there is a challenge of uh, lack of differentiation between amongst firms. So most firms, their websites look similar, their people profile looks quite similar, and often firms and their leaders are struggling to differentiate themselves. And the rhetoric of competition obviously offers, I mean, it blunts any sort of differentiation that you may have. So how do you and your firm and you, how do you maintain your differentiation?
I
No,
think
I
the
think,
way, go ahead,
Sorry,
Bairam. Please go ahead.
yeah,
Please go ahead, Bairam.
yeah.
no, I think that it's again, technology can only take you so far. So let's take it that I take your view that amongst the peer group of law firms, their systems, processes, IT, all that is comparable. I'm not sure it is, but let's take that surmise. Uh, then it comes to the people cannot be the same, right? So even if you take it again that all of you go to the same top 5 law schools, of course, the experience, reputation attracts these youngsters. So all the firms make a very big effort to get the best lawyers because, as I said, that's the bottom line to get the best people you can. But that's only the first step. Then there is a 2 more very important steps. The training, how much time, effort, and I have to say, I think if we are honest with ourselves, the training that is given in the rest of the world, in the top firms, and the training that we do, still we have got because in quality, intelligence, of course, we are right there. But we do not spend the kind of money and effort that they spend on training. Again, this is my personal view. So it is absolutely amazing to me. But we are all of us obviously trying to do better. And at AZB, we now are focused a lot on training. We have one of our brightest partners, superstar M&E partner, who heads this. She does this full time. So the firm is blessed that we have someone of her caliber. And so you do this training, then of course on the job you keep learning how your seniors mentor you. You have to mentor the senior associate and partners that spend some time with the juniors, like people spend with you. So it's not automatic. I mean that's how you will say yes. The associate Dinesh will say thanks, Behram. That associate was really good. He didn't come out of. He may be Bangalore or Hyderabad, but he's not coming out. None of us did. If I also came out, you learn so much on the job. And then, of course, the last thing is retention. Your best people today, they have 20 other offers. So you have to find ways to keep them motivated, to retain your team, keep the churn as low as possible. So I don't think it's commoditized, yeah. Especially in the kind of stuff we do. I can just tell you from AZB because we are not about size. If it's a commoditized piece of work, we won't be competitive, price competitive. If we are looking at the high quality stuff that you need to be done.
Dinesh, ma'am?
No, technology is becoming extremely critical. No question about it. Uh, look at what happened in COVID. I had an occasion to do a session for Bombay Chartered Accountants Society on how do I see the profession post COVID, and will it continue to be the same? And it's very unfortunate that in the accounting profession, we have small firms of chartered accountants where probably there isn't even enough laptops or whatever else that everybody has. And imagine you are in COVID times, you are sitting home, you need connectivity. How do you provide that? Uh, so I'm talking at a base level. From there on, today organizations have grown in size. Uh, Take for example, we do VAT work in Dubai, and organizations of a particular size and scale. And unless you have the systems and processes to go into their ERP system and verify what is required, you cannot ensure compliance with VAT work at all. So it's a necessity, and over a period of time, the dependence on technology will keep on increasing. That's one part. Behram lightly emphasize on training. So as I see going forward, all professional services organizations will have two levels of work. One is a highly intellectual work where you need somebody to come in, provide a differentiator. So if you're looking at an IBC issue and you're wanting to make a finer point of law, you will have to think of Behram or somebody like that who can come and tell you this is the way you should approach the IBC court and this is where NCLT will accept or not accept. And even if you win at NCLT in NCLAT, what will happen? Supreme Court, what will happen? Somebody who can lay that journey out for you. Equally, there are a number of things which you do which are commoditized, and if you are a full services organization, you might need to provide at least at an accounting level those services to a client, and that can be rendered only through technology and nothing else. As an organization, you have a choice. Somewhere on the line, Nishit's organization was mentioned by Behram, and again an outstanding example. If you ask Nishit today that what are the three things that he is concentrating on, his number one thing will be legal use of marijuana. Now he's looking at something which is going to be impacting the legal profession maybe 3, 5, 7, 10 years down the line, and researching on it. The organization has created a niche for itself there. It is not looking to compete with AZB at all. AZB is a full service law firm. Nishit has been around as long as Zia is. The focus was different. Zia wanted to create a full service law firm. Nishit wanted to create a firm which is such a got lot of technology is going to be relevant, but it's a question of whether you want to render mass services or intellectual services. And training, I think I couldn't agree more with Behra. It's absolutely critical. I have seen in my organization, and I've seen in the Big Four and everywhere else, the moment there is a client work and there is a clash with training, client work always gets a priority. Or training wo to hota rahega. That sort of an approach. And when you have that sort of an approach, you are not training people for tomorrow. And if I may wind up that answer with what Dhruva has done during the COVID period. Fortunately, bulk of the work that we do can happen from home where we are kept reasonably busy. But the amount of time that we have invested in training and putting our back office in order, we can say with a conviction that at the end of this period, whenever that happens and whenever the new normal arises, the organization will be several notches better than what it was in terms of its technical strength and capability.
So one question may be related to talent, which Bharam said. So many often, and I understand you are amongst the premier organizations in legal and tax advice in India. What I hear from Bharam is that we hire the very best people, and therefore the whole chain from the associate to partner, they are of the same talent. What differentiates an associate and a partner is not talent or intelligence. What differentiates them is their market knowledge and relationships and experience. While this is great for you and you are able to pay the top bill and get the best people, most Indian firms struggle to do that. Now, is hiring the best talent the way forward, or it's a combination of everything? I mean, again, question to both of you.
No, I think again, yeah. I mean, as all my partners and friends tell me, I'm an optimist by nature. But what I'd say is that, see, most of us, the big firms, go to a handful of law schools. They don't go to the rest. And at least I know we go to GLC because of emotion. So many of us, including myself, was from GLC. But are you saying that all the other, besides 5 law schools, all the rest have no good talent? So I would say, to answer your question, that I'm sure that if you go to the next 10, 15, 20 and take the top students, there would be fantastic talent. And in a way, if I can use a crude term, raw talent. Because then, as I say, you have to train that talent. And as you put it so rightly, Rajiv, it's then experience and the entire years that you put into it and the hard work you put into it. But can you get essentially bright, competent youngsters, definitely. I mean, 1.3 billion people, we keep saying the whole demographic dividend. So kya hai? It's nothing. You will get very bright people, very bright.
Dinesh, but any thoughts there, sir?
No, I think talent retention. I think to your question, when I look at talent, and you look at what is it. So your question was, is talent the way forward? And I don't think it is any of these. It's a combination. It's truly a combination. It's how the leadership looks at the future. What is the vision that you are creating? What are the opportunities that you are creating for the people, etc. So that is one aspect of it. Second aspect of it is, what is it that you are doing to motivate people, build, put systems and processes in place? What are your growth aspirations, training? It's all of that put together. I To just say that if you recruit the best youngsters, uh, from wherever. So, if for example, in an accounting thing, you would come back and say that, what if I recruited only rank holders and I paid them the best? Will I create the best organization? Unfortunately, the answer will be no, because all organization is a combination of IQ, EQ, and a number of other things. You have to put that entire gamut of things to create a proper organization. It is not one or the other. Surely, talent is the biggest thing, but it's the direction of the talent, the leadership, the creating of a broad-based management bandwidth, all of that which makes a difference.
So how important is culture? Because I hear that so many times, culture in the firm, we are different, we have a different culture, we believe differently. Every firm has a different culture. And often, sir, culture becomes a very, very key differentiator, because most of my partners have been with me for life. So we do things together, we know each other, we know how we react to each other. I'm sure that must be with you as well. So I can very well say that if this question is posed to this gentleman, the answer is going to be this. And we have grown together, so we become so close, and there is a unique culture to which I believe will be very, very different than every firm. So culture being a differentiator, uh, how critical is that for Indian firms vis-a-vis a big MNC? So this is a critical question on the culture part of things. Please.
I
Yeah,
think,
so
go
Sorry,
ahead,
I
Madam,
mean,
please.
yeah, Madam Bhai.
I think there's no doubt. I mean, that's a very good question. Culture is at the heart of it. And I'm sure that almost every organization will agree with that. And culture emanates from the top. So, as I think I read somewhere that Warren Buffett said that whenever he used to interview people in his younger days, the three things he looked for was, of course, competence. Two was fire in the belly, and third was integrity. And he said, just imagine if someone is 10 on 10 in intellect, 10 on 10 fire in the belly, and 0 on integrity, your organization is destroyed because he's super bright, he'll work night and day, and he'll wipe you off. So, of all three, integrity has to, it's not a moral thing, it's a hard fact of life that integrity has to be at the top of it. So that's one take. And the second, again, as I can tell you, of course, is AZB. Is we were very fortunate that compared to our peer group, we are super young. So we are super young in two aspects. One is we are 17 years old because AZB was formed in 2004. And the second thing is we are all, the average age of our 440 lawyers is almost as young as India. So again, it's kind of matches, right? As you said, you hired a lot of youngsters. You've hired them recently. You've grown recently. So it's a very young firm, and therefore the culture is a very open, flat culture. And it's not just me saying it, I'm sure anyone will tell you, like every organization, we have our strengths and our weaknesses. But this is definitely a strength that it's a very open, friendly, there's no sir or no fear of walking into any of our rooms, having a good discussion. If you think that I'm wrong, which my juniors feel on a daily basis, they will argue vehemently with me. So it's a very engaging, friendly culture. So yes, I mean, bottom line, as you said, culture is crucial. It'll be, top three.
Dinesh bhai?
When we started Dhruva, this was a question which engaged me to say, what is the culture of an organization? Is there really some such concept? Is there a manifestation? Behram spoke about integrity, which is, of course, a non-negotiable hard ethics of the organization. But for example, in Dhruva, we would like to believe that we are a transparent organization. Now, what do you mean by transparent? And you cannot be semi-transparent. Either you are transparent or you are not, which is to say that the organization believes in sharing information, getting a buy-in. So let me give an example. When we look at our salaries, okay, we actually have a team of 10 to 12 employees across levels and across location, to whom we open up our grids, not individual pay scales, our grids, and come back and say, this is how we remunerate people. Level 1, level 2, as people grow, this is how we remunerate people. You go out, we want to pay best in class. Are we competitive? Are we not? What are the increments? What are the bonuses? And they come and tell us, this is what we believe we should do. And 9 on 10, 9.9 on 10 will exactly do what they say. So when I say that the organization is run by people, it genuinely is. Okay. I have this saying ever so often that if you come to my office, and I don't know, Raji, whether you have been there, Behram is too busy to come, that's a separate matter. But the colors in my office, people say, are bright, young, very good. And I can tell you, I disapprove of all of them because I am a straight jacket, blue gray guy, whereas my organization is all hues of color and looks so nice. And thank God I let the people choose them rather than me getting involved with any part of the. I'm giving you a small example. So really, the question is, what is that culture? I'm just putting one example. Each organization develops a way in which it works. Behram again rightly pointed out. Is there a sir culture? Is there a subservience? Do people believe that yes, they can speak their mind? And if they can't, you can't create an organization culture. So, and culture itself has myriad things, and it takes time, years to develop. And the true test of a culture is in the time of adversity. When things are going right, everybody can follow the culture. It is when things are going wrong, do people stick to that culture? Do people stick to the value system? Do people stick to what you need to? I can't tell you how important it is. And in all my discussions with some of the best leaders in the world, the only advice that I have received is that focus on organization culture, everything else will fall in place.
It's very. I think these words of wisdom are worth their weight in gold. I can only say that. So a few
Rajiv,
questions come from audience, and I
I think
wanted, yes, a few questions that have come.
Behram wants to make a point.
Yes,
no,
Param
no.
bhai.
The audience has been very patient, so we should take some
Yes, yes,
Q&A.
yes. So some questions. So they've sent it to me on WhatsApp. One question they are asking, and this is a firm. This is I am a. There are two questions there. I am a 5-member firm. I am a small firm. What would you advise me? You are the doyens of the industry. I am a small firm in a mid-tier city in India. What do I do? I mean, to obviously, I mean, for me to scale up to your level, maybe a lifetime's work. But what is that I can do to make a difference? What's your advice to me?
So,
So,
if I can go, I think the point I would just make is that it doesn't matter whether you are in a mid-tier firm, you are 5 people. Are you making a difference? Have you identified a niche for yourself? So you may be, if you're a lawyer, have you identified what is it that your clients there in and around need? And are you able to give that satisfaction to the client that for the type of services that you provide, you are the person to go. And then are you able to sort of expand gradually to say that if you are in a tier 2 city, are you building maybe a network of people around you? Are you striking some informal alliances such that you can grow up? You are not going to grow overnight over next 5 years to grow a large organization, but surely your aspiration to grow qualitatively in a niche and then expand is absolutely doable.
Behram, your take on that?
Yeah, I think much the same. I think the first thing is, as I said, you should, what is your aspiration? What is your goal? I mean, you want to stay small and successful, then, as Dinesh says, you look for your niche, be the best uh, 5-person law firm or small law firm in your town or city. Or is your aspiration to do something more than that? So it all depends on what your goals are. And in today's world, as we said, with technology and this unfortunate COVID situation has shown how far technology can take us. So one of the largest Chinese firms, I think, has over 100 offices in China. So if you build a terrific group, and then your aspiration is to be part of a top 5 law firm in India, I'm sure if you contact them and say, listen, I'm the best guy here in Nagpur, you are not going to come to Nagpur. So can I become Sam Nagpur? Very likely. So it all depends. I mean, people want independence. It's all what you want to do.
So one more question, which has come from is a different side person. I mean, he's saying the question, which is that you see, we are a reasonably sized 10 partner firm, accounting firm. Again, two offices. And what do we do? We are essentially, we have a few listed companies as a client. Their biggest challenge is talent retention. What's your advice to this? Second question. Again, I'll let Dinesh Bhai maybe. Again, so the question is easy to say that pay the top dollar because they are struggling. There is this vicious circle. Their clients have a limited ability to pay. Therefore, they have a limited ability to pay. So the economics is determined by the client base.
Yeah. Again, if you are a 10 partner middle sized firm, the question, and I think Rajiv, probably herein lies the rub. Again, I was talking in the context of my discussions with chartered accountants on the BCS platform. And the one point which I was making to them is that one of the things which is inevitable in a pandemic is that all the CFOs are going to try and minimize their cost, because cost is going to, profits are under pressure. And one of the best ways to reduce cost is to go to professionals and cut their bills to half. Everybody wants to retain work. People are going to agree to compromise, whatever else. Are you a cost center for your client, or are you a value center for your clients? If your clients are going to see you always as a cost center, okay, you are going to struggle to get the fees. If the clients see that you are able to add value because you are thinking beyond your sphere, you are able to enhance the profitability of the clients. There is so much that an accounting firm can do to provide that vision to its promoters. There may be certain times when you may have to take a cost pressure, like the times of pandemic, but generally, if you are able to demonstrate value and charge for that value, you will not struggle with this sort of a thing. Okay. Are you able to look at and go and sit with a promoter? So what happens, as I have seen, Rajiv, in my experiences, a chartered accountant, and this may be true for everybody, but I'm just giving you my own experience, is a specialist in tax. And when he goes and meets with a promoter, he can't go beyond his sphere of activity. He can't relate to what is it that is keeping his client awake and what can he do for the client. If you are doing that, you stop becoming a cost center. That's when you will be able to charge fees. That's when you will be able to train your people, retain talent. It is inevitable. You are going to face challenge on, even you ask Behram, and Behram will tell you, that even among the largest law firms, there is a war for talent. No question about it. We have seen people move from one firm to an organization. So that's not peculiar to a mid-sized firm. It's a question of what are you doing?
Bharam, any thoughts, sir?
No, I completely agree. And I think that there's certainly a war for talent. And I know at least in the legal profession, uh, a lot of friends, as I said, who are now have their smaller mid-sized firms, including Dinesh was referring to our mutual very good friend Abhijit Joshi. So, but all of them, I have to say, again, this may be me personally, but you have to pay within the ballpark. If you're doing the same quality of work, same hours of work, then it should be a fair compensation. And the people I know, they are paying, definitely paying pretty much in the ballpark. Yeah, okay. I mean, it may be 10% plus and minus. But if the person is going to choose a job on that, then anyway, he has the wrong motivations. Because there are always advantages and disadvantages in working in a larger organization and a smaller organization. So I think these are manageable. They're tough issues, but as Dinesh said, they're tough issues for all of us.
Sir, one last question which has come on WhatsApp, and I think with that we may come to, or maybe one more after that. One last question which has come, and I'll read it out, sir. And this is a sort of a provocative question. Are the leaders of Indian homegrown firms to be blamed for the lack of will, determination, and risk-taking ability for where they find themselves? And I let you answer. I think it's a good question. Maybe you can, or is it that the competition was too overwhelming and too asymmetric? And this is my addition to that. Are they to be blamed, or is the competition too asymmetric and overwhelming?
Dinesh, you want to go or you want me to go?
Please go ahead.
No, so I didn't get the question fully, but I got to tell you, our lawyers risk averse, they are definitely risk averse. So I should put that up on the table. But one of our first questions we started out that most of the law firms have been tremendously successful. So I'm not the part I didn't get clear is what risk should we have taken, except for the one you are saying why didn't you go international?
So maybe it's more oriented to the accounting firms and not so much to the legal firms. Maybe that may be the flavor of the question.
Rajiv, even otherwise, by definition, accountants are conservative, and I'm glad that they are. However, there are two separate issues. Conservatism when it comes to giving advice to the client, opinions to the client, signing of an audit report is a conservatism which is necessary, valid, and needed very much. Other is a conservatism in terms of growth. And let me tell you what do I mean by that. So you are a small time firm of chartered accountants. You give an example, 10 partner firm, mid tier, wherever you are. Would you take a risk of saying that here is a new area of practice which has come up, and I am going to make an investment to get talent and grow in that area? Maybe it's going to take 6 months, 1 year for that practice area to grow. And if you are investing in that, that's a risk which you need to take. And if you do not take that risk, you are never going to grow. Because in my experience, Rajiv, there are three things which will never be symmetrical. There will always be asymmetrical.
Sir, I think
second is talent, and the third is work. They three will never always be in sync. That's a reality of life. Okay? So it is not that you will always have the work and the people and the infrastructure to make that happen. Therefore, you got to make an investment to say, okay, I'm starting a new office in a location which may not have immediate work on hand, but I know I will make an investment and grow, or I will grow into a service area which is new, but I will make an investment, or I'll make an investment in technology. That's a risk which everybody needs to take.
Oh, sir, I think these are, can I say, words of of wisdom. I think, sir, that's the time that we have for. We can go on asking questions, and maybe it may take 2 hours also. But I think, thank you very much to both Behram and Dinesh. I think your immense experience have been very, very helpful to all the audience. And if I can summarize maybe a few points that you said, that building a PSF or leading a professional firm needs a rare combination of intellectual skill, uh, reputational and brand capital, people management skills, ability to take people along, building that culture. And we need to put the Indian firms in that virtuous cycle of growth. And we have to start somewhere, that they start creating some sort of differentiation. Maybe the discipline of market leaders is critical. So if they focus on a certain discipline, maybe they can go from there and then expand. I think these are the points which I could summarize with this. So we'll be putting this video to our. But I think this is a great learning for all of us. Thank you. Really appreciate Dinesh bhai, Behram bhai. I think it's a wonderful session having you
Thank,
with us.
Thank you.
thank you
Thank you
very
for
much.
having us. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you.
Thank you. Appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.